My name is Michael Gonzales. I'm a writer, journalist, cultural critic. I write for various websites, Long Reads, Complex, Q Point, a bunch of different music and cultural websites, Parish Review. Um, I am originally from New York City, but I moved to Baltimore in the summer of '78, and we lived actually right up the block on Monroe Street and North Avenue. Odell's was the biggest black disco in Baltimore. I mean, it was like Baltimore Studio 54. Odell's had a motto called "You Know If You Belong," and you would see these Odell's bumper stickers on people's cars. You would hear the commercial on the radio. At the time, the station was V103. That was my favorite station to listen to at the time. And it was just a whole different vibe than what I was used to. Now, granted, I was a teenager. I was only 16 when I first moved to Baltimore, but at the time, the drinking age was 18. So getting into clubs wasn't that difficult. At the time, I was like really into rock and roll. I wasn't really that much into disco, but I had a lot of disco-loving friends. And my friend Carol Bazewski, who was like my sister. I call her my little sister, even though we were the same age, but she was much shorter than me, so she was my little sister. And Carol and I hung out all the time. And Carol loved to dance, and Carol loved Odell's, and her friends loved Odell's. So one day, kind of out of the blue, I later found out that she was looking for her boyfriend. And but Carol called me up, and she's like, "Look, Mike, we're gonna go to Odell's tonight, blah, blah, blah." And it was kind of funny because I probably had one suit. You know, I dressed like the rock and roll kids. I had like wrinkled jeans and Led Zeppelin t-shirts and stuff like that. But you know, Carol was like, "Look, put on something nice, put on some shoes, and we're gonna go to Odell's." There was a space here for you to take pictures. It was so 70s. It was like this big bamboo chair and a big backdrop that said Odell's on it. And you know, it looked, I mean, looking at it 30 years later, it looked tacky, but at the time, we thought it was spectacular, you know? To tell you the truth, I wasn't much of a dancer. In fact, I'm still not much of a dancer. I'm just older now, and I don't really care anymore, so. But at the time, I was very, you know, I was a teenager. I was very self-conscious, but Carol was persistent, and she kind of forced me to go out on the floor and dance. So I was probably out on the floor doing the Carlton or, you know, doing something that looked equally as spastic. Luckily, I had very patient friends, and, you know, nobody made fun of me and nobody laughed at me or anything. In the late 70s, after Saturday Night Fever and, you know, disco kind of became like this pop culture explosion, there was a lot of backlash against disco, especially from rock and roll people. I don't know what it was about. There's people who will tell you that it was racist. There's people who will tell you that it was homophobic. You know, I don't know what it was. You know, ironically, the first night that I came to Odell's was the night of the disco demolition, which was in Chicago. And it was basically done by this DJ who hated disco, was blowing up disco records on the air. And I think it was during a Cubs game. So during this break in the game, they invited people to come down to the field and burn or blow up their disco records. And it just turned into this crazy frenzy of bizarreness. One of my good friends is a writer, English writer named Frank Owen. And in the 80s, Frank wrote a lot about house music. And when I was writing this piece about Odell's, he said, you know, I interviewed him for the piece, and he just thought it was funny that in the same place where they tried to kill disco, that's where Frankie Knuckles and all these guys that created the house music scene kind of came up out of those ashes. I mean, you know, there will be people that tell you that disco died that night. I don't believe that's true. People always want to dance. You know what I'm saying? Especially marginalized, poor people, whatever. You know, people want to go out and you know, get rid of all the pressures of the week and, you know, their 9 to 5 and just like let their hair down and do their thing. Look nice, smell nice. I mean, you know, that was what it was all about. And so to me, I mean, I wrote this story not so much to relive my own youth or whatever. I just really want people to know Baltimore outside of the wire. You know, Baltimore has such a rich history that has never been explored nationally that I know of, you know, with the exception of Barry Levinson movies and, you know, a couple pieces here and there. But people always think of Baltimore in a negative light. And I wanted to highlight some of the things that I thought was special about Baltimore. And that's why I wrote the piece in the first place.